You can date someone who never yells, never plays games, never makes you chase them, and still feel emotionally abandoned. That is what makes this pattern so hard to catch. Nothing looks wrong from the outside. The relationship sounds healthy. Your partner seems mature, steady, low drama. And yet, every time you bring them something vulnerable, you leave the conversation feeling smaller, over-explained, or strangely alone. A lot of people are told that secure attachment should feel like safety. So when a calm partner leaves you feeling disconnected, you start turning that doubt back on yourself. You wonder if you are too sensitive, too emotional, too hard to reassure. But there is a psychological gap that gets missed all the time. A person can be regulated without being attuned. They can stay calm in conflict and still fail to meet you emotionally. That failure is easy to miss because it does not look cruel. It looks reasonable. It sounds like you're overthinking it, or it's fine. It can even look healthy. But if your feelings keep getting answered with logic instead of contact, something starts to happen. You stop feeling openly hurt and start feeling quietly alone. And if you do not catch that pattern early, you can spend months, even years, blaming your own reactions while the relationship slowly loses its emotional life. So when someone looks perfectly secure, what are you actually looking at? Why secure can still feel lonely? You can be with someone who seems emotionally healthy, mature, and steady, and still feel strangely alone. That is the confusing part. There is no chaos to point to, no dramatic withdrawal, no obvious cruelty. On paper, the relationship looks stable. In daily life, though, something feels missing, and it is hard to explain without sounding unreasonable. A lot of people are taught to believe that secure attachment should feel like pure relief. No mixed signals, no panic, no constant guessing. So when you finally meet someone calm, you expect your nervous system to settle and your emotional world to feel safer. Sometimes that does happen, but sometimes the calm person does not actually feel close. They feel unavailable in a quieter way. This is where people get trapped by appearances. Emotional steadiness and emotional availability are not the same thing. A person can be patient, practical, and hard to rattle, yet still not know how to meet you emotionally. They may not overreact, they may not start fights, they may not make you chase them. But when you bring them something vulnerable, they do not really step into it with you. That is why this kind of loneliness feels so disorienting. If someone is cruel, cold, or openly avoidant, your mind can name the problem. When someone is calm, polite, and consistent, your pain becomes harder to trust. You start asking yourself if you are creating an issue where there is none. You might notice it in small moments. You tell them you feel distant, and they answer with facts. You say something felt hurtful, and they explain why it was not a big deal. You leave the conversation with no conflict, but also with no sense of being reached. So the real confusion begins there. Are you with someone truly secure, or with someone whose calmness hides a deeper emotional absence? Calmness is not the same as attunement. What often gets missed here is a very specific difference. A person can be calm around your feelings without being attuned to them. Those are not the same skills. Attunement means they notice what is happening inside you, treat it as real, and respond in a way that helps you feel understood before they try to solve anything. You can see the gap in ordinary conversations. You say, "Something has felt off between us all week." They answer, "I do not think anything is wrong." You say, "That comment hurt me." They answer, "You know I did not mean it like that." They stay composed, they do not yell, they do not get defensive in an obvious way. But they also do not meet the emotional meaning of what you said. To them, this may feel responsible. They are staying level. They are not feeding panic. They may even believe they are helping by giving you a stable frame. But from your side, the experience is very different. You are not only upset about the original issue anymore, you are now also alone in it. A lot of this comes from a blind spot. People often assume that what calms them should calm you. If this kind of pattern keeps showing up in your relationships, subscribe now. Because the next part is where calm starts looking healthy while doing quiet damage. If that lands a little too hard, you probably need the rest of this. If logic settles their nervous system, they offer logic. If distance helps them think clearly, they give space. If they do not personally feel alarmed, they may read your alarm as exaggeration. Not out of cruelty, but out of projection. They use their own inner settings as the measure for yours. That is why emotional invalidation can look so clean on the surface. Phrases like, "You are overthinking," "It is fine," or "There is no reason to worry," sound measured and mature. But they can work as a quiet form of dismissal because your internal reality is being corrected before it is even recognized. So when you start feeling irrational around a calm partner, the real issue may not be your emotion. It may be that your emotion keeps getting managed without ever being understood. When security becomes accidental dismissiveness. This is where the dynamic becomes especially hard to name, because the invalidation is often not openly harsh. In fact, they may look more composed than anyone you have dated before. Your partner is not mocking you. They are not shouting over you. They are not storming out. But while you are trying to share what something felt like, they stay outside your experience and respond to it from a distance. That distance matters more than people realize. If you say, "I felt really alone when you shut down in that conversation," and they reply, "I was just tired. You are reading too much into it," they may think they are clarifying. What you feel instead is that your emotional reality is being edited in real time. The facts of their intention are being offered, but your experience is not being joined. This is why people do not calm down simply because someone tells them to. Your nervous system settles more easily when it first feels accompanied. You need some sign that the other person has actually entered the moment with you. A simple response, like, "I can see why that landed that way," often does more than a long explanation. Without that sense of being met, calm advice can feel cold. A big missing piece here is the ability to imagine the other person from the inside. If your partner does not actively ask themselves, "What is this like for you right now?" their stability can turn into a kind of wall. They are present physically, maybe even patient in tone, but emotionally, they do not cross the distance. Then something predictable happens. You push harder, you repeat yourself, your voice gets sharper, not always because you are irrational, but because some part of you is still trying to get through. You are looking for evidence that your inner world matters enough for them to step toward it. So what looks from the outside like needy versus mature is often something much simpler and sadder. A person asking for connection and another person offering composure without contact. The other dark side. Safety can turn into complacency. There is another problem that looks healthy from the outside. Not because they stopped caring in any dramatic sense, more because the sense of urgency disappears. Once a relationship feels safe, some people slowly stop tending to it. The bond feels established, so effort becomes less visible. This happens in very ordinary ways. The good morning texts get shorter. The affectionate check-ins become practical updates. Dates turn into errands. Curiosity fades and gets replaced by assumption. Your partner may think, "We are good," while you start feeling like the relationship is running on memory instead of real contact. That shift matters because closeness does not maintain itself, just because conflict is low. People adapt quickly to what becomes familiar. What once felt warm, intentional, and special can become background. Appreciation drops. Small gestures stop. Playfulness shrinks. Not because the relationship is unsafe, but because safety can remove the pressure that made attention active in the first place. This can create a strange imbalance. If you are the more connection-focused person, you may keep reaching, initiating, planning, asking, noticing. The calmer partner may do less and less because they assume less is needed. From your point of view, the absence of effort starts to feel like emotional drift. From their point of view, the absence of problems proves the relationship is stable. That is how a relationship can become dead without becoming openly destructive. There is no betrayal to point to, no major rupture, no explosive fights, just fewer bids for closeness being answered, less warmth, less pursuit, less aliveness in the room. And that is what makes it so hard to explain, even to yourself. When nothing visibly bad is happening, your loneliness starts to feel illegitimate. You tell yourself you should be grateful. You tell yourself this is what peace looks like. But your emotional system keeps registering something important. Stability without ongoing engagement can start to feel like being quietly left alone in the relationship. Secure, avoidant, or checked out. How to tell the difference. At this point, the hard question is not whether your partner seems calm. The hard question is what their calmness actually does in the relationship. A genuinely secure person does not only stay regulated, they also stay open. When tension appears, they do not collapse into panic, but they also do not go emotionally offline. They can hear that you are hurt without treating your feelings like a problem to be managed away. They move closer when closeness is needed. They reassure without sounding trapped. They repair after distance instead of acting like nothing happened. An avoidant pattern feels different. The person often experiences emotional demand as pressure. So when you bring up disconnection, they protect themselves by pulling back, minimizing, intellectualizing, or changing the subject. Their message is often subtle but clear. Your need for contact feels like too much for them. They may call this being rational independent or low drama, but under pressure, they become less available, not more. Then there is a third possibility that can look deceptively similar from the outside. A checked out partner may not be defending against intimacy in any deep attachment sense. They may simply have stopped investing. The relationship feels guaranteed, so they stop reaching. They stop adapting, they stop noticing. There is no active resistance, just very little engagement. The difference shows up in behavior. When disconnection happens, do they make contact again? When you ask for reassurance, do they respond in a way that fits you, or only in the way that works for them? Do they stay curious about your experience, even when they disagree? Do they adjust, or do they keep offering the same emotionally thin response and call it maturity? That is the real measure. Not whether they appear unbothered, but whether you actually feel met when it matters. The deeper reframe: healthy love is not just low drama. The deeper mistake is treating low drama as the full definition of a healthy relationship. It is only part of the picture. Yes, constant chaos can damage trust. Yes, emotional volatility can make connection feel unstable, responsive, or emotionally alive. But the absence of conflict by itself does not tell you whether love is active. What actually makes a relationship feel secure is not just that your partner stays calm. It is that their calmness still has warmth in it. They can listen without shutting you down. They can disagree without becoming unreachable. They can set limits without making you feel foolish for having needs. You do not just feel managed around them. You feel met. That distinction matters because a person can help lower tension while still increasing loneliness. If every vulnerable moment gets turned into a correction, an explanation, or a reminder to relax, the relationship may look functional while your inner life slowly goes unattended. Over time, that creates a very specific pain. You stop feeling openly hurt by them and start feeling vaguely erased beside them. So if you have been telling yourself that you are too sensitive because your partner seems so stable, stop there. If you repeatedly leave important conversations feeling unseen, over-explained, or emotionally alone, your reaction may be registering something real, not instability, not irrationality, a lack of emotional reach. And that is the standard that matters in the end. Healthy love does not need to feel chaotic to feel real, but it should still feel alive. It should still feel mutual. When something important happens inside you, there should be a person on the other side who can come closer, not just stay calm.